Whoopa! What happened? I got a new camera. So here's the deal. Those of you who watched my previous few videos will probably know that during one of my recent trips, the old camera that I had broke. It just suddenly stopped working at the end of my trip to Belgrade, Serbia. And I wasn't too upset about it because I'd had that camera for something like 5 years, and it had pretty much, well, actually more than 5 years, and it had pretty much run its course. 8 years, actually. Yeah, I had that camera almost 8 years. So yeah, so that camera's time had come and gone, and the quality was never very good to begin with. I got, on pretty much every video that I uploaded with that camera, I got somebody who felt the need to comment that my camera quality wasn't very good, which I was aware of, but there wasn't really any way to fix it without getting another camera, which I didn't want to do because I'm too cheap. But yeah, and so when that camera broke, I thought, well, you know, I'm pretty much done traveling. I don't have a lot of travel videos left to make anyway, so it's no big deal. I'll just, what a shame, I'll just call it quits and probably stop making videos here. But here's what happened. I am about to go on probably the biggest vacation of my life. It's still not that big. I'm not going like hiking in the jungles of Africa for 6 months or something like that. It's nothing nearly that spectacular, but I am going on vacation for about 3 weeks, which I don't think I've ever taken that long of a vacation before in my life. Maybe I have once, but anyway. So the travel itinerary starts with Moscow. Now, I've never been to Moscow, and that's something I regret greatly because many of you probably know I used to live I lived almost a year in St. Petersburg, which is the second largest city in Russia, but I have never even been to, I've never once even been to Moscow, the largest and capital city of Russia. And at the time that I was there, I didn't really want to go to Moscow for the very simple reason that everybody told me it was terrible. Everybody told me Moscow's too big, it's too crowded, it's too dirty, too noisy. And so I thought, well, okay, I mean, I've already been in big cities before. I mean, I used to live close to Los Angeles, then I lived close to San Francisco. I grew up partly in Toronto, all of which are fairly large cities. So I mean, I'm pretty used to city noise. And I thought, okay, well, I've had enough of that, so I don't really need to see Moscow if that's all it is. But in the meantime, so many people have told me something like, oh, you got to see Moscow. You really missed out if you didn't see Moscow because it's really a wonderful city, and it's kind of like, you know, it's the classical sort of us versus them thing. It's kind of like if you're from California. I used to live in California, both in Southern California and Northern California, and so I know there's that huge sort of LA versus San Francisco thing there. People from LA say that, you know, Southern California is so much better. The weather is so much more beautiful. It's sunnier. It's warmer. The people are more uninhibited. And then, of course, in Northern California, people say Northern California is so much better. It's so much cleaner. The people are friendlier. There's less problems with gangs and violence and crime and things like that. So it's really a matter of opinion, isn't it? I mean, obviously people in St. Petersburg will say that that Moscow is terrible, and people from Moscow have often said that Moscow, you know, that St. Petersburg can't hold a candle to Moscow. So I finally said, you know what, the heck with it. I'm going to have to see it for myself. I mean, people's opinions are great, but I'm never going to be able to form my own opinion if I don't just go there and do it myself. So I am going to Moscow. The reason why I'm making this video now before my trip, which is something I usually don't do, is because I'm wondering if anybody watching is in Moscow and is interested in meeting up. I'm only going to be there for about a week, or probably even slightly less than a week, which I know a lot of people will say that's not long enough to really see the city. I know in a week you can't see all of Moscow. It's a huge city. You can't see the whole thing in a week. I realize that, but it's long enough for me to get a feel for whether I like it or not. Usually what I do when I go to any new country or city that I've never been to before for the first time, I usually just spend a few days there, not longer than a week, because that's long enough for me to get an idea of how I feel there, what kind of a feeling, what kind of a vibe I get from the city, and how I personally interact with that city. So, yeah, I mean, just under a week in Moscow. I realize it's not very long, but it's long enough that I'll know at the end of that trip whether I like Moscow or not. And if I really like it, then I'll probably plan a longer trip later. And if I don't like it, if I find out that it's too big, too dirty for me, then I'll say, well, okay, I went there. Now nobody can accuse me of saying that I never went there. So yeah. If anybody wants to meet, I like making videos about Russia because Russia has always been a bit special to me ever since I first went there almost 10 years ago. And the reason why it's kind of special to me is just because it's a little hidden, you know. It's kind of like I was in London, and I didn't want to make videos about London because everybody's seen London, or maybe you haven't seen London, maybe you haven't been to London, but there are so many videos about London on YouTube and elsewhere. There's so much information about it. There's nothing I could say about London that hasn't already been said. I was in Venice. I didn't make any videos of it, same reason. I was in Amsterdam, same thing. Didn't make any videos. I just, what could I say? There's literally nothing, even having been there, looking back, there's literally nothing I could have said about it that hasn't already been said countless times before. But Russia's a bit different. Russia's not that popular of a tourist destination, and so Russia's a bit special for me because every time I go there, I feel like I'm kind of discovering some sort of secret buried kingdom that's kind of untouched by the sands of time, which of course is not. I mean, I realize there are lots of tourists in Moscow. There are lots of videos on YouTube that you can find about Moscow, about St. Petersburg, and even about many much more, not exotic, but more untouched, let's say, more less traveled kind of Russian cities. I mean, if you want to see Russia on YouTube, you can find it, but I wanna film my experience to Moscow because Moscow is a bit special. Russia's always been a bit special to me. It's a little more exotic. Like, it's not super exotic like Asia or Africa, but it's a little more exotic in the European sense. And I am not only going to Moscow. I will probably be spending most of the time in Moscow, but after that I am going to go, or I'm planning to go on a trip through the rest of Eastern Europe. And by Eastern Europe, I mean specifically, I will probably be in St. Petersburg, by the way. I'll be passing through St. Petersburg just for a day, so if anybody's there and wants to meet up just for like one day, I'll probably be there on the end of the week. I should say when I'm going. I am going next week, which, at the time of making this video, it's next week. The week of the 5th of May. Yeah. I, being an American, still believe that the week begins on Monday. So the 5th of May, 2019, is a Monday, and so I would say the week of the 5th of May. If you are European and think the week starts on, I'm an American, so did I say Monday? What I meant to say is, as an American, I believe that the week starts on Sunday. I think I said Monday. I'm getting confused now from being in Europe. As an American, I believe the week starts on Sunday, and the 5th of May, 2019 is a Sunday, so for me that's the first day of the week. If you're a European, you think the week starts on Monday, then okay, let's call it the week of the 6th of May. That week I should be flying up to Moscow, and then I'll be taking probably a train. The plan is to take a train back to St. Petersburg, be there for like the Friday and or Saturday of that week, and then from there continue on to the rest of the trip. So what is the rest of the trip? Planned countries are Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland. I have not really been to any of those countries except for, I was once very briefly in Riga, which is the capital of Latvia, but I was only there for like 2 hours because I was transiting through bus. That was actually when I left Russia the last time. I took a train out of St. Petersburg, then changed to a bus in Riga, and from Riga went the rest of the trip. So everything's pretty much open there. I'll say in Poland I am probably not going to Warsaw because I've already been there twice, but I've not been anywhere else in Poland. So anywhere else in Poland is pretty much open. Pretty much anywhere in Estonia, Latvia, or Lithuania is wide open. And like I said, if anybody wants to meet up, I mean, I'm not really a huge meet and greet kind of person. I mean, I'm not a huge YouTube celebrity who thousands of people are clamoring to meet, I realize. But in case anyone's curious, and in case anyone wants to, I don't know, say hi or whatever, now's the time to do so. If anybody has suggestions on where to go, I'm open to suggestions because I don't know that region very well. I mean, I know my geography is good enough to know the capital cities. Obviously, I will be going to Tallinn, the capital of Estonia, Riga, the capital of Latvia, and Vilnius, the capital of Lithuania. Warsaw is the capital of Poland, but like I said, I've been there twice, so I won't go there again, probably. But anywhere else, if there's anywhere else that's worth recommending, I am open to suggestions. So yeah, if anybody has any recommendations or suggestions on where to go during a 3-week vacation, I'm open to ideas. And if anybody wants to do interviews, particularly in Russia, what I really kind of want to do, I shouldn't say really want to do it, like I'm not really, really eager to do it, but what I'd like to do is, if there's anybody in Russia, either in Moscow or St. Petersburg, who wants to do maybe a little interview on camera, just I guess I would just ask some basic questions like, what do you think of life here? How do you think life here compares to other European countries or perhaps other non-European countries? Just to get some perspectives from people who live there and have probably grown up in Russia and lived there all their lives. So I'd be interested in doing that. If anybody out there is interested in doing such an interview for YouTube, I am open to that. Other than that, I guess I don't have much else to say right now. If anybody's from any of those places, if you are from Moscow, St. Petersburg, or anywhere in the Baltic states or Poland, other than Warsaw, let me know, and maybe we'll say hi and, go out and film, whatever's worth filming there. So, I guess that's all. So yeah, I'm happy about this new camera. I think the quality is a lot better than the previous one. It's kind of unfortunate that I didn't film all my previous videos with this camera, but that's something that obviously I can't go back and change now. So yeah, that was that. I guess I am done talking. So I will shut up now and say thanks for watching, everyone. Like I said, if anybody has any suggestions, send me a comment. As people always say on YouTube, put a comment down there in the comments below. Write something. I will probably read it unless I die. And yeah, we'll see what happens. So again, thanks for watching, everyone. Cheers.